Mr. Swastik Banerjee is currently pursuing his doctoral in philosophy at the University of Kolkata. Prior to this, he had completed his master's in philosophy from the University of Madras. He also had received an offer to pursue doctoral studies from the prestigious Oxford University. He studied Kashmir Shaivism under scholars like Professor Debabrata Sen Sharma, Professor Navjeevan Rastogi, and Pandit Prannath Kaul. He is a recipient of the Ishwar Ashram Trust Fellowship for studying Kashmir Shaivism. He has presented several papers throughout the country in both national and international conferences in institutes like Jadavpur University, ICPR, Sanskrit College University, Ishwar Ashram Trust, SVMF, and so on. He is interested in esoteric studies and psychoanalysis concerning self knowledge. He first met Sadhguru Mataji during his masters and has been a part of SVMF since then. He's also helped SVMF organize 2 conferences in Kolkata. I now call upon Mr. Swastik to please deliver his speech. Thank you. Swastik, please unmute yourself.
Oh, yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you. So I will start. I'm starting with today I will talk about my own experiences with Sadhguruji, whom I met in 2013. Yes, when I started my PhD, Masters in Madras University in 2013. But before that, I would like to do invocation. In case I become inaudible, just let me know, because I'm not using a headphone. I could not hear you. Agadha Samaya Sambodhi Samuttarana Vande Vichitra Padam Chitram Tam Guru Bharatim. This is an invocation done by Kallata in his Pandakarika. If you are seeking for the reference, it's in Pandakarika's 4th section, first invocation. And I would go into explaining this thing because it has got a lot to do with my experience of meeting Sadhguruji. And my experiences of Sadhguruji also involve a lot that I have learned in later on with esoteric studies. So there is this strange notion in Western craft, like if we see throughout the world and not just in India, because most of us tend to see that the spiritual tradition is restricted in India, but it is not so. Like a similar pattern of thought has been seen even in the West in ancient times. And this is particularly relevant in the case of the Old West, which were later on tagged as the practices of witchcraft, or in Gerald Gardner's new revival of the Vika tradition of the West. Even in India, we have the Tantric tradition, where we see a person can be elevated to a status of God. And Nalinikanto Brahmo has written about it in his Philosophy of Sadhana book. And there is the statement while doing puja that we come that Devang Bhutva Devang Bhaje, where you become God to worship God. And this is something that is universal. And when I asked Swamiji for the book on Sadhguruji's life, because I was quite curious to read about her, and when I first read about it, and I found strange similarities, which I must say was reading about some other people in the West and also in India, but it's very rare that someone having certain abilities displaying from their childhood, and it's not very normal that we see. So this is the first step that I would say that reveals her nature of not being merely a normal person as we are. See, what is this human being that we see? And I would be constantly bringing reference about Kashmir Shaivism, because I rather trick philosophy, because that is my area, and I would beg for forgiveness because I think I saw Surendra Mohan Mishra sir, Bharamohan Mishra sir in the session as well. They are far much better scholars in Kashmir Shaivism than I am. So if I do some mistake, do forgive me. Okay. So what happens that in Trika they say, but the reality is consciousness for sure. Rather, Chaitanya is a better word than consciousness because everyone is familiar with the word. Chaitanya is the reality for sure. But that Chaitanya has came down and ultimately somewhere revealed itself to be multiple, and in one of its aspects has revealed itself to be us. And this us, or this me that we know about, or the Krityamaham, which we call over here, which is separate from the Purnamaham, has been limited by the 5 kalas. These 5 kalas bind you in your omniscience, bind you in your ability to uh, uh, be omnipotent, ability to be everywhere. All these things get binded in different levels. Kal, Kala, Niyati, Rag, Vidya, the 5 kalas. So uh, it also makes us forget our essential nature. Therefore, none of us being away from our essential nature, or being in the turned in the opposite direction from our own self, and having the our vision towards the objective reality, we tend to identify ourselves as an object. This self which we know, the individual self, is often termed in Kashmir Shaivism using the word idamaham. That's a split idam, which is split into being aham. That is, the self is also becoming an object of our experience. It does not remain a pure subjective experience for us. And thus the question of bracketing it out and ultimately observing the consciousness to reach to a transcendental ego rises. And this reaching to a state of transcendence beyond what we see in our daily experience, just by observing our experience, this entire phenomenological exercise that we do is one of the central ways of how Pratyabhigya is done in Kashmir Shaivism. And because we are incapable of seeing our own self, we are also incapable of manifesting our abilities. And Sadhguruji was one of the very rare people who actually displayed such abilities even from her very childhood. She was able to see the future, and we see the stories where she is telling that this is going to happen, or telling something that people would be shocked. People coming to harm entities beyond our body. See, we are limited by this body, and we don't really experience ourselves beyond this body. And she is experiencing herself beyond this body, beyond the tattva of Prithvi where we are resting, the most condensed of the tattvas, and where Shiva becomes Prithvi to manifest. And in that point, we have to realize that a person doing that is higher than us in her birth. In other words, the mala in that person is somewhere cracked already, cracked open. So the light is shining through her. Therefore, when she starts to reflect, and automatically this great urge to be liberated, to know myself, rises in her. And we also find that she goes to take a Diksha. Now, Diksha has been taken in a very serious way in Kashmir Shaivism, how Diksha happens. And not all Dikshas have been given by an individual human being. There are sambandhas discussed in Kashmir Shaivism, Divyago Sambandha, then Divya Sambandha, all this, which starts from very Paramashiva to Sadashiva to Ishwara Tattva, coming down to the Sanakadi Kumaras, to the Srikanthanath, or the physical embodiment of the god whom we were worshipping as the physical Shiva, to Durvasa Muni, and on till us. And how this connection, the relation, sambandhas happen over there. This is a very serious discussion. It also comes in Paratrishika Vivarana. And we see that flow of energy, but which point are we supposed to get is purely determined by how much our malas are covering our reality. But for her, the malas were so light that we see the rare example of a Tibra Shaktipata. Now, Shaktipata has been majorly categorized into 3: Tivra, Madhya, and Nimna. Most of us who get into a guru go there because we cannot take the suffering. And we simply look for a route of escaping the suffering. This way of escaping the suffering is often known to be falling under the category of Nimna Shaktipata. And then beyond that comes Madhya Shaktipata. Madhya Shaktipata is not a group of escapists, but they are either intellectually pure who are capable of understanding this reality, or having the Anitya Viveka, or realizing something. But at the same time, they require a human guru. They are not in touch with direct God, or God becoming their guru. And there are 3 categories of this Shaktipata even within Tibra Shaktipata, which goes beyond, where God being the master or the guru, master is a very wrong word to use, guru is a better word, one who dispels the darkness, is seen in Tibra Shaktipata. Now, Tivra Shaktipata is further categorized into three things. Tivrati Tivra, Tivra Madhya and Tivra Nimna. And Tivrati Tivra Shaktipata, even if she had it, she would not have explained it. Tivrati Tivra Shaktipata is an extreme case where you get it and you immediately leave the body. Tivra Madhya Shaktipata is somewhere in between, where they might go into close their eyes and get back into Samadhi and may not even have the hours to help you. But it is them who, for the benefit of the world, goes to Tivra Nimna Shaktipata. One thing must be remembered, a person getting Tivra Shaktipata is getting it by their own choice, because they are in such high levels that they decide on that plane that when we are going to decide for a certain Shaktipata, their act will be like Leela. And even for Sadhguruji, her entire life is like a Leela. In Bengal, we see that many gurus like Sitaram Das Omkarnath, Paramhansha Nigamananda, then our Ramakrishna Paramhansha, even Jagatbandhu Sundar, all of them, there are several and several gurus we have seen in Bengal. We talk of their life as Leelas because they're avatars. They are very different from how we are as a human being. They were born with a purpose, and the purpose to uplift us. Their entire act of their life was like a play. Like we read a play in Bhagavata Mahapurana, where we see Krishna as a Leela, but here is a physical embodiment of a Leela. And such people become Sadgurus to elevate us and show path to us by their life. And this Leela is seen in her life as well. Her life itself is Leela. So this Leela of the Tivra Nimna Shaktipata has been done to be more approachable, where she being in direct contact with God, being Krishna, her guru, she still takes Diksha with particular people and immediately attains Siddhi. Now it is very strange. When you attain Siddhi in God, with God, a mantra of God, you become God. You don't become any separate identity from God. Now, when we say you become God, is it that you are not God and you then became God? No, it is not so. See, this Ishvara, there are 7 pramatas of our being. We belong to Sakala Pramata, the most limited existence of being. We are identified with the name and the body. Beyond that is Pralayakal Pramata, which we do move about in our states of deep sleep. And beyond that goes Vijnana Kala and so and so. But there is a certain Pramata which lies in the equal level of Ishvara and Sadashiva. In Ishvara Pramata, we see Mantreshwar Pramata, and above that we see Mantra Maheshwar Pramata. Now, Mantra Maheshwar Pramata is the highest Pramata that a person can experience in the physical body, because beyond that you will lose the physical body. So when you become God, the way of seeing the world merely changes. You go more inside and you extend your being. Like our being is limited in its existence. We extend the being from a limited pramata of the individual self existing over here to the level of Ishvara Pramata, or even beyond to Sadashiva Pramata. It is said that there is a Parabhairav Samadhi which was attained by Swami Lakshmanju, and such cases would be seen over here. And I had my personal experiences where I have seen Swamiji also getting into Samadhi, and I did not know it was Samadhi before, but so, please don't mind Swamiji, I just mentioned it. So I have seen these things. So like Samadhi is a thing that you go into, you just go inward, and your body might look like it's falling asleep, your body might look like it's resting, or body might be quite awake. So it depends on what kind of Samadhi you are invoking. So for her, it was constantly extended. Once she attains that state, she attains that only. What happens when you attain Mantra Siddhi? And Mantra Virya or Mantra Siddhi is a very serious discussion in Shiva Sutras. And it is done by Guru Upaya. That's Guru Upaya is a sutra again. Now, Guru Upaya means you need a Guru. Guru can be God, it can be Guru Shakti. When we talk about Guru, we talk about Guru Shakti. Now, this Guru is someone who initiates you or who guides you. Like, as I said, it's a line from which you get the point, how pure it remains. For her, it was obviously very pure. And when she gets into that mantra vidya, or when she attains that state of goddess, it is the state of Ichha Shakti. So what is this Ichha Shakti? Ichha Shakti is the state of first fluttering. You see, consciousness is fully complete. It's vibrating with its own awareness. Swachanda Nanda Ghana Amrita Anuttara Amrita Tattvam. This is the word used by Khemraja in Shiva Sutra Vimarshini. So it's so full of its own joy that it may not even will to create, but its swabhava is to create. Like it's like Lakshmanju once used to say that it's like a monkey who knows that it is not within itself, but at the same time, like a child, it wishes to see if there can be anything seen outside itself. In the process, it starts manifesting idamta and like cutting itself into two and creating the other. So that's how it happens for us. The first will of creating, the first intention, the very Pashyanti Vak, where the double intentionality arises. Intention means the aboutness of Pada, where the entire creation, everything is there. And the thing of going into Madhyama and Vaikhari, coming down where like string, all the intentions, like everything that we have is having an intention behind that. And that all the intentions has been tied up like a knot. That state, they settle down. And when they get that state revealed, they attain the state of goddess. What happens in that state? Being in that state, the mantra becomes so subtle, the awareness becomes so subtle that he or she is capable of manifesting any god or goddesses in front of them out of their sheer will. They are just experiencing Swatantra Shakti. Their statements, their existence, their like words, even their will is one with God. This Ichha is not our individual Ichha, but the Ichha of the God. And this statement has also been used by Anandamayi Ma. If you know of her, she was a great sadhika of last century. She told about it, that becoming that Ichha is one of the greatest goals. And we see it in Sadhguru. There's this one great statement that Sadhguru used to tell me, and I used to be a person who loved debates. I still do. It's not that I don't do. She was like, stop doubting God. This is what she said, because I would doubt her. And if something happens, I will be, okay, is it? Because I I would be like Descartes, everything, you keep on doubting till you can doubt. And not to that extent like you, but more like Descartes, I will be doing that. And she was like, stop doubting God. And this is something whose relevance I really understood from more from Western occult. And because they speak of doubt being a part of your inner impurity, which like makes the thing more, what will I say, gross and incapable of seeing the reality. So, but this does not mean they're supporting blind faith. Neither is she talking about blind faith. There's a popular misconception in Bengali, like Vishwashe Milay Bostu Torke Bohudu, which means in blind faith you just get the thing and in arguments or in reasoning it goes very far away. It is not like that. She is maintaining the Indian tradition and speaking of Shraddha and Nishtha. So Nishtha and Shraddha is where when you know a person is apta, that is a person is reliable and trustworthy, and you just know that by doing that act you will reach that point. And this is how she is. She is a apta Vyakti. And when a person becomes apta, parava flows through her. How does the words come out from her mouth? And this is again where we will come into how the descent of the vak comes. See, instead of speaking from the high to low, we can speak from the low to high also. Let's start from the high to low. The para is the para sambandha, para avastha is where all things are existing. There is nothing that cannot exist over there. If something exists outside para, it will be considered to be non-existent. Now, even contradictions exist, but it's in an existent state. Everything is there together. Then there is a rise of awareness where it rises like a wave and we start seeing. That's the first intention. There is no manifestation shape or something. If we say the pot, a word, I see a pot, it's just the intention of I seeing a pot, no image, nothing. Then comes a state which manifests in the mind. So from that para, it comes to her mind. There the word splits, but it still remains in the consciousness. It has not in the individual consciousness, in the individual mind, where the one has split into two, the subjective subject and the subjective object. It's like Swapna Avastha. This is the state of Madhyama. And then ultimately it splits out of Madhyama to manifest as Vaikhari, where the objective word and the pada and the padartha exist, and the sentence and the speaker exist. So this too manifests out. This is how her words are also manifesting. Similarly, we can go into reverse order where we are speaking, going behind to see the thoughts behind the speak, to the intention behind the speak, to ultimately retreat to para. And this happens with her as well. So when we speak of her, when we see her as a god, embodiment of goddess, precisely Raja Rajeshwari as it was written in her bio, like the one we get several references like that. Coming back to what is a guru and the stotra sloka I just said, I would just repeat it again and I would just show that what is being said over here. Precisely what is being said by Khemraj. So, Agadha Samsaya Sambodhinim Samuttarana Vande Vichitra Padam Chitram Tam Guru Bharatim. So, Agadha Samsaya Tarinim. This is the first word she uses. And why I am using this word is pretty simple. So the literal translation goes is like as Lakshmanju does it, because I would be using Lakshmanju's translation since he is a Siddha Sadhaka. So I bow to that supreme and wonderful world of master who gives rise to manifold ways of supreme thought that carry the disciple across the ocean of doubts. See, do not doubt God. The Upadeshas he gave me. It carries you across the ocean of doubts. Agadha Samsaya Sambodhi Samuttarana Tarini. So the doubt is regarding our identity, the world, Anitya, everything. So she makes you cross it. And such is a great guru. So therefore, the word uses one day I bow down or I do vandana to that Vichitra Padam Chitram Tam Guru Bharatim. This word Vichitra Padam is using to Vichitra Artha Padam, which means it is Parabak. So it also means that one whose stages of rest in form of Samadhi display wonderful state of bliss. This is from Jaydev Singh's book. And in case of this great Guru speech, she is always resting in that Vichitra Artha Padam. So it's coming out from that. Chitram Tam Guru Bharatim. So this Chitram word means wonderful, because that state itself is wonderstruck. Adbhuta Rasa will be coming over here. When you experience that state, even in your yogic samadhi, you are awestruck. Like you cannot like speak, your entire tongue being touched by that Shiva's Rasa. You are united with that Anuttara joy. And you just cannot see that state of Guru. We are doing Bandhana. So Guru is also state over here. Vande Guru Bharati. Guru is one who demolishes darkness. But here it is not just Guru. It is also Mahatim Bharatim. This word is used by Khemraj. So why Mahatim Bharatim is being used? Mahatim Bharatim means she is Mahat. She is equal to Parava. So Bharati is also a Shakti over here. In Trika, that uncommon goddess who is in accordance with Shakti is the door of entrance into Shiva, acts as an Acharya. See, in Vijnana Bhairava, it's clearly said that if you want to enter Bhairava, if you want to enter the state of Shiva, the way is Shakti. Because, and the Shakti is itself Guru. And why is it so? Because like Guru Shakti, I mean, not Guru, you see the mark of Guru and everything, memories. And the world itself is manifested by Shakti. Everything that we see is an Unmilan of the Shakti in her own screen. And this Shakti manifests as the Guru. Guru is purely Anugraha Murti. So she is resting as the Anugraha Murti, doing Tirodhan over herself, that is concealing her own nature as a supreme being. Now, if you see that own nature, you might not be able to take it in the human eyes, because we are limited. We are limited in the way we see. We cannot quite accept the great being. And when we see Arjuna seeing the great Krishna's great form, he was first given a Divya Chakshu and then made to see it. And Arjuna was initially scared, because this is the same with seeing the great form. Even in the book Mayar Kripa, when I was reading, and it was probably regarding Nigamananda, he was seeing Devi Tarai as his own wife, because his wife passed away and he started the sadhana. So the goddess Tara appeared to her as his wife. And then suddenly when goddess Tara takes the form of Tara out of his request, he just simply gets shocked and faints. See the problem that happens over, you cannot really take a great form. So they have to conceal themselves. And the Guru conceals its own nature, embodying all the Shaktis over there. Even in Tantra, it is said the greatest form of union of mantra happens when you identify the mantra, the Guru, and the God, these three as the same. Because that God acts as the Guru who delivers you the mantra. This mantra will first take you through the Guru's pada to God. There is no other way that you can reach God. Therefore, even in the Dhyana Sloka, we say Vande Guru Pada Dvamdam Avang Manasa Gocharam Rakta Shukla Prabhamishram Atarkyam Taipuram Maha. So that Guru's pada is Rakta Shukla Prabhamishra. Rakta being Vimarsha Shakti and Shukla being Prakasha. The Shiva and Shakti. These two lights are being mixed. So that pada of Guru is the highest, and it is done in Sahasrara. And people visualize it as a great light of Shakti being coming down. And even in Sambhunatha's Mangalacharana, when Abhinavagupta is doing that, he says that one day Guru Rekam Jai thing, but in Shambhunathas, he uses the name of Bhattadika Guru Shakti, because without Guru Shakti, Guru is nothing. So having Shakti as Guru is the greatest, like I will say, luck that one can have. It is the greatest kripa of goddess to appear as the female form of Shakti. So even everywhere, the Shakti becomes very important. So if I was, yeah. So this Guru's Vichitra Padam is doing Tirodhan over themselves. For a fool who does not understand this thing, or for someone whose eyes have not opened, will see her as just a mere human being. Not just anyone, any great Siddha will be seen as a normal human being. This is how they conceal their reality to the world. And for the right person, they will see. And they are constantly forming this Panchakritya, this Tirodhana Srishti Sthiti Laya Anugraha. For us, this Panchakritya is again happening, but in a very lower state than there. So this level is a great prestigious privilege, I would rather say, to see a Guru and a Sadguru in her physical form, that to a person manifesting as a woman form. So these are certain factors that I would wanted to say all about Sadhguruji, and it was a bit scattered though, but that's more or less what I would say. And thank you. If you have any questions, you may ask me, and I would do pranams to my Sadhguruji and to Swami Srihari Prasad ji for here, and I would do the prayer as an end, this small prayer that we do in Kashmir Shaivism, which is as an offering to Sadhguruji. Alambe jagadalambam he ramba charanambujam shushyanti yadadrat sparshat sadhya pratyuharavadhayaha. Thank you.